Hey guys, it's Matt. This is the Old Fashioned Radio Show, Thursday, October 28th, 2021. How is that even possible? I don't know. What happened to September? What happened to October? What happened to the past year and a half? I don't know. We'll talk about time in one segment here. Just a quick update reporting from the dark hills, the dark hills of Pennsylvania with a candle, a beer, and a loaded firearm. Well, that's what most of my nights look like, but this is being done in the morning. And just want to give you a quick update. What a 3 days it's been, and what an upcoming 7 days it will be. It's 7 more days before their best estimate I can get power back. The power surge was unbelievable, like nothing they've ever seen. The transformer across the street blew. It blew out my entire box. It blew a hole in my concrete that holds the box. The box basically exploded upwards. There was smoke downstairs. I'm laughing because the homeowners, I don't know what my deductible is on this, but the homeowners is likely going to. I haven't talked to them at length. The adjuster, the main adjuster hasn't called me, but you don't want these stupid details. Let's get into the old-fashioned radio show. And the format will be about the same, vary between serious topics, sponsors like Marco Rubio's Bubble Parties of Central and South Florida, making fun of the clown show, and then back to a serious topic. So let's start pretty seriously. An email was sent to me that sums up in one sentence what I was trying to say in the video K through 12 Truth and the progressions we go through from first grade truthers onto 12th grade potential graduation and over a long, long period of time. It's all summed up in one sentence, and I don't have my other computers or the internet in front of me, so I'm paraphrasing, but it was along the lines of the more confusion that this reality throws at us, and it is designed, the reality itself is designed from top to bottom to confuse, to throw confusion. The more confusion it throws at us, and of course the more we chase it and pay attention to it, the more it leads us away from truth. It's that simple, and it was put better in the email than I'm paraphrasing it. The more confusion it throws at us, and it's designed to do that, the more we actually look at it, pay attention, and chase it, it leads us away from truth. Now, there's no doubt about that. Now, this means every single truther YouTube channel that is just endless symbolism, endless this esoteric connection to this connection, and the more this nonsense is presented, I think most of you guys would agree with me, that leads us away from truth. But isn't understanding what the screen is, isn't that truth? No, it's I'll say it again, to worry about yourself. The truth is only what you are here to do for yourself. It's that simple. I will give this reminder for as long as this channel exists. If a truth video comes on and it's so complicated and it's all this esoteric stuff and occult reference and one thing leads to the next and you're trying to understand it but you don't, and it's all a waste of time. And I'm not just saying that to make myself feel better because I don't understand it. No, this is no joke. It is a joke, but I actually did this. I made paddles. Now, let me just back up. Like, what are you talking about? Yes or no paddles. If you haven't seen the movie, what's it called with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson, The Intern or The Internship or The Interns with the anti-V guy, De Niro. I guess it's called The Internship where they go to Google. It doesn't matter. It's just a knockoff, cheap imitation of Wedding Crashers. Wedding Crashers had 10 really, really funny scenes. The Internship with Vince Vaughn has like 3 or 4 really funny scenes. It's not a good movie. There are a few parts that are pretty darn funny, though, especially the interview to go to Google from the library and some other. Anyway, the point is, when they get there, they're 20 years older than the average or 15 years older than the kids they have Google has recruited for the internship. In one of the opening scenes, they bring everybody together in an auditorium or something. Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson are sitting there amongst all these kids trying out to be the Google intern. Then they'll get employment from Google. And they're all handed these 2 paddles. A red paddle is held up if you disagree with what's being said, and you hold up a green paddle if you agree with what's being said. And, of course, every question that's asked, Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn get it wrong. About taking food home from the office, they get it wrong. drinking with coworkers. All the kids hold up the red. No, they won't do that. Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson hold up the green paddles. They want to drink with coworkers. And the Google manager's like, some of us are not 21 here. And then Vince Vaughn's like, well, some of us are 21 here. And he's like, sir, if you'd like to grab a cold one with me. And the guy's like, no, whatever his name is, Mr. Taylor, I will not be having a cold one with you. Anyway, they have these paddles. It's a funny scene. I made these paddles, and that we're going to do this with different YouTube videos and different presentations. If the YouTube video and presentation just adds to the confusion of trying to figure out this reality, what you're really meant to do here, your purpose in life, it's just to add on to the confusion the way the reality wants YouTubers and truthers adding on to the confusion with just one nonsense investigation after another. Then you hold up the paddle that you recognize that this is not helping my personal journey here. You hold that paddle up. So I'm going to actually have these paddles. We're going to do a video at some point where I make an idiot of myself, and we'll go through different topics and say, does this bring us closer to spiritual truth and understanding of who we are from a timeless perspective, what we're here to do? Or, like an example would be like melted bricks. Is that melted bricks? You could get it all right. You could answer every question right about melted bricks. That doesn't do anything for the main purpose of life, what you're here to do for yourself. Melted bricks ain't a factor in that equation. So we'll do the paddle exercise at some point. And I'm sorry for being long-winded about that. No, Mr. Teller, I would not like to have a cold one with you. Guys, a quick note here I forgot to mention. I made a note about power outages in general. I go out all the time up here because trees and everything. If you or in your family have not been in a power outage in 5 years or so, and there's some new Toll Brothers home communities or townhouse communities where they just almost never go out. There's hardly any trees. You really should do an exercise where you just flip the switch on your main breaker at 5 o'clock, and you go just one day, but you just need to go through this if you haven't for 5 or 10 years. It is incredible what we are reliant upon in these systems. I mean, it is just absolutely you think there'd be nothing to do. Like, oh, your power outage, you just sit around. No. Everything takes 10 times longer to do. I don't have any water here. I mean, it's well, so it's on the electric. You've got to go out and get water, and then washing feeding the cats, washing the forks. It's just everything takes forever. And what happened in Texas last winter was pretty brutal, really brutal for a lot of people for 2 to 3 weeks. You really should go through this exercise with the family. And you have no power outage, just literally throw the breaker. Say, we just have to learn how to go about doing things. Who knows, for whatever reason, even just for the next hurricane. It's just really difficult when it happens and you haven't been through it. I've been, up here, a tree goes crashing through a line, once a year. I've been through it. I don't know how many times, 20 sometimes, but it's definitely something you should do. And it won't be as dramatic. I mean, knowing you could just flip the switch and get power back is a huge factor. It's not the same as when this is similar to the ice storm that was here 6 or 7 years ago. It was almost 6 days for most of us, 17 to 18, 19 degrees, 20 degrees at night, trying to run stoves so your pipes don't freeze. It just was brutal type of situation. And I had no generator at that time, It was, at the end of the 6th day, you literally start to crack. Literally, you get a little off mentally as the sun goes down at 4:59. It's just, at the time, me, no animals, 4 beers, a little transistor radio, listening to the same bullcrap news radio, and anything that could get on the transistor radio, and a loaded firearm. And then you start to slowly, this happens over and over, and you start to dread the night because you can't go to bed at 5 o'clock. It's just, you should go through it and be ready for it. That's all I'm saying. It's not like saying some asteroid's coming. I'm saying, just for the sake of doing it, you should just go through this if you haven't in a few years. In the little time I have had, I started writing up a segment that I'm going to present in a future video about our progression through the topic of predictive programming. And just to summarize for a minute or two, I will do a whole 45 minute to an hour presentation on that. But generally, where we all started about 10 years ago with the term itself, predictive programming, everything that we found in the past that led to a future event, of which 90% of these things all relate back to the 7-Eleven reference, the 7-Eleven job application reference in TVs, movies, comic books, and things in a 20 to 30 year period leading up to the year 2001. Although once we understood that this predictive programming is something that's part of reality, when we found it in other areas. But the monster event, of course, for predictive elements in art, movies, music, etc., is, of course, the 2001 event. But what I'm writing about is how we didn't have much more than a first grade answer to what this was all about when we started looking at it 10 years ago. And I did it too. I don't blame us. We weren't anywhere near where we are now 10 years ago. But it was all about, predictive programming. The only answer we could come up with is the creeps planted it. The phone, I'm not going to go, you've heard me say this a million times, so I'm going to be brief. The phone call came from Rothschild, and it was planted. And as you get thousands and thousands of these across different topics, not just the 2001 event, then we progress in terms of our understanding of how reality works. You look back and you say, well, just first grade to say it's just all planted. I mean, that is absurd. No group could organize that. So then there's a progression in actually using the predictive nature of what comes in art and media that predicts future events to try to get a better understanding of reality itself. Things like retrocausality, where a big, huge event actually rippled backwards in time and affected the past, or channeling, where the time is an illusion. Whoever created a certain piece of art was aware of the event from our sensory perception was coming, but there is no such thing as time. Time is probably all laid on top of each other. It had already happened, or even saying it that way is incorrect. And it was basically channeled through the art. So I'm writing this up, and it's going pretty well, about how we're leaving that first grade term of predictive programming behind. And something like this, even in our own lives, we can notice certain things, or take these theories kind of to the next level. I guess it was the first night it happened here, Tuesday. I was downstairs with one candle, and the cat that's isolated by herself, but she's totally come around. Now she's on my lap. Her name from the Spay and Say was Fifi, but I call her Addie, so it became Fifi Addie. She's on my lap, and it's basically pitch dark with a candle. And I said to myself, the fact that, I said to myself, and I was kind of talking to her, the fact that you came around, she was just hid from me for 2 years. The fact that you came around where she's now sitting on my lap, purring for an hour, I said I would trade, obviously, the situation I'm in now, I would trade that in a second, times 1,000 for the joy I get, the fact that she's come around. And then I thought, I said that, and I said maybe I just did trade it. So this little mini retrocausality feeling came over me. So again, I'm sitting in the dark. She's on my lap purring. I said, all this nonsense with the power surge, who knows how long this is going to take, the expense, everything. I'd go through all of it, times 1,000, if it was like a trade-off, if I had to go through this for you to come around and to where you are, Fifi. And I thought maybe I just did it. If you see what I'm saying, maybe that was the pact that actually did it in the past. Now, these pacts like that can only be with yourself. I've said before, any sort of thing, like people have come to me, you get some creepy stuff every so often. Matt, go out and ask the universe for this, and it's presented in such a way like it makes sense. But then right before I was about to do it the first time, I was a little bit more naive 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, well, wait a second. Who would I be asking for, and what sort of creepy thing might answer, if you see what I'm saying? So the pacts with the universe are, that's, to me, it's almost dangerous to get into that. But this was like with myself. It's like, I didn't say to the universe or ask something for it, or I would trade this for this, like a false Faustian pact. No. It was like what I was willing to do. Like, I'm willing to go through this suffering, or, way more if I could have made a trade between what the cat was able to do and what I'm going through now. And there was like this retrocausality thought. And I thought, maybe I just did it. Maybe I just did that. Maybe if I didn't do what I just did and just completely say that what's happened with the cat has been so worth any sort of hardship like this, if I wasn't ready for that, maybe it would have never happened, if you see what I'm saying. So it just hit me, and it was pretty profound how it hit me. And it's hard to talk about. I don't know if I'm even getting that out right, but we'll talk about that sort of stuff in the future. We have a special edition to the What Are the Chances section of the book for this edition of the Old Fashioned Radio Show. It's very current with the news about Alec Baldwin, and it reads like this. What are the chances that Alec Baldwin would star in a movie about a Soviet submarine called The Hunt for Red October, and the person that Baldwin accidentally shot and killed on the set of the movie Rust was the daughter of a Soviet submarine commander? He was in a movie, one of the most famous movies of all time, about a Soviet submarine. Then the person accidentally killed was the daughter of a Soviet submarine commander. Okay, by itself it's a little strange, but of course this goes on and on and on. Her name was Helena Hutchins, if that's pronounced correctly. Helena Hutchins, HH, father, was actually a Soviet submarine commander. Now, the movie's title, The Hunt for Red October, includes the color red, Red October. The etymology of Rust, the movie that Alec Baldwin was filming when the accident happened, the etymology of Rust means red. There's your connection to The Hunt for Red October again in two places. The shooting took place in October, this month. It's current news. There's a third connection to The Hunt for Red October. And in the movie, one of Alec Baldwin's, or the character he plays, key points regarding why Marco Ramius would defect, that was Sean Connery's character, one of the key points why Marco Ramius would defect, he says he was Ukrainian by birth. So is HH's father, Ukrainian by birth. Marco Ramius was a Ukrainian-born submarine commander. Her father's Ukrainian-born submarine commander. Matt, certainly there couldn't be any more. Yeah, you think it just goes on, and it's the song that never ends. It goes on and on and on. Of course, you can, and if I stopped my research, if I would have kept going, the reality would have kept feeding me forever. So here we go. Now, the news stories, when you research this, makes it a point that she went from Russia to Los Angeles. They all make it like it's like a connection. Like she grew up on this submarine base. She was in Russia, and she went to Los Angeles to further her Hollywood career. To Russia, to Los Angeles. From Russia with love. No. So, okay, in The Hunt for Red October, back to the movie, the submarine that was hunting the Hunt for Red October was called the Dallas. Okay, remember that. The Dallas. Now, the Dallas was Los Angeles class. It was a Los Angeles class submarine. I'm telling you in these articles, they make it a point. She went from Russia to Los Angeles. Another relationship to the Hunt for Red October. Okay. Now, also, during the accident, HH was killed. Apparently, there was one live round or something. I don't how they explained it. But the bullet, it didn't just go in her. The director, Joel Souza, most people don't know this about the article. Joel Souza, I'm not joking. Joel Souza, the director, was also injured by the same bullet that killed Helena Hutchins, and he was treated in a local hospital and released. That actually ties in Dallas again via the same scenario that we just talked about in the last Free Voice presentation, the Dealey Plaza presentation. In Dallas, or as Governor Connolly would say, in Dallas. Governor Connolly doesn't know how to say the word Dallas. He says, the president came to Dallas. Anyway, so we have Dallas as the name of the sub in The Hunt for Red October. We have basically a repeat of the magic bullet scenario where it actually hit the director, and his name again was Souza. So that ties Dallas to Dallas. And what else is here? I mean, this list just goes on and on and on. Okay, yeah, Governor Connolly was treated for an injury that was that actually hit Kennedy. Souza was treated for an injury that actually hit HH, who Alec Baldwin accidentally killed. Now, also in Rust, Baldwin was starring as an outlaw whose grandson is sentenced to hang for an accidental killing. Let me repeat that. In Rust, the movie they're filming, Baldwin was starring as an outlaw whose grandson is sentenced to hang for an accidental killing. You believe that? So in The Hunt for Red October, here's the last part. The winter evergreen scene with the snow in the beginning, they call it the Molinari, I'm not pronouncing that right, the Molinari Inlet near Murmansk. It was actually filmed in Alaska. First scene in The Hunt for Red October. Molinari Inlet near Murmansk, where I guess the Red October and Sean Connery's about to submerge. Guess where Helena Hutchins grew up? On the exact same military base that was presented in the opening of The Hunt for Red October, the submarine base outside of, I'll give you 3 guesses, but you're only going to need one, Murmansk. Are you kidding me? So, Matt, what are you saying here? What happened? Just same as the last Free Voice presentation. Same as the scene in Jarhead when you get to that 9th level of Metroid. Nothing. Absolutely nothing happened. Well, why would they make nobody was really. Did she go to her own private Idaho with David Bowie? Yeah, probably. And of course it didn't happen. I mean, well, why do they constantly have to make these presentations? I don't know. I'm not in the back room with him when Jared comes around the corner with his serving a tray of pigs and blankets. I don't know why they have to do this. You know, the first grade answer is a continuation of the humiliation rituals that have always been associated with Alec Baldwin. Now, that's just me parroting back what I heard. I don't know about Eyes Wide Shut humiliation rituals. I know they put every man in a dress and all that, and we can notice that sort of thing. I don't why they do it. What did he sign in blood somewhere? Did he say you're going to become a famous person, but you got to do this and that? I don't know. We don't know how this stuff works, but it does seem to follow the theme. I mean, there was that controversy with him where, of course, there was a recording that got out where he called his daughter, I don't know what he said, he was a slimy little fat pig or something like that. But 10, 15 years ago, he called his little daughter, who was 11, that. All part of the Alec script. Why they have to do it, who knows? Who knows? I mean, if you want to get a little bit more advanced, people giving their energy, attention, millions upon millions giving their energy, attention to this story in some way, maybe they use it from a loose perspective to feed off the energies created from stories like this. I don't know. I mean, who the heck knows how these, at the root level, how these creeps do business? All I know is it's just like the JFK, and it's just like the 9th level of what happens when you get to the 9th level or past the 9th level of, I don't know what they said in Jarhead, something like that, the 9th level of Metroid. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Guys, a quick note on the movie Dune. This is a reality discussion. I'm not going to review the movie. I'm not some movie reviewer. Let me just say a few things about it, but then I'm going to try to tie this into why they intentionally make Star Wars bad on purpose and why they try to ruin all these franchises, and what the non-ruination of Dune, is that a word? Non-ruination of Dune, what that means. We'll talk about that. Let me just shut up and be plain. I just need to get to the point. Dune is pretty darn good. These other movies were made bad on purpose, like Star Wars, like all the franchises that have been destroyed, like Terminator, like the new Star Trek on television, like the Marvel series, all destroyed with social justice warrior stuff. And, we've counted for how many years now, every single franchise and movie and beloved character destroyed. Then here comes Dune, and it is pretty darn good. Now, it's not the greatest movie of all time, but it is absolutely true to the original. Now, the main question is, why was Dune preserved and all of these other franchises destroyed? I don't know, but I'll ponder, maybe the David Lynch connection, ponder that in a minute. But the main point I want to make is the main thing that Gus is saying here is the fact that Dune can come out and be pretty darn good, but only if you like the original. I mean, you're not going to really get it if you don't or weren't a fan of the original sci-fi, original Dune, which was, again, I think it's David Lynch in, 82 or 85 or something like that. The fact that Dune is that good means Hollywood still can make a good movie. I mean, there are actually these movie reviewers out there that believe like Hollywood just, one, they kind of forgot how to make a good movie. Like they haven't been studying exactly what works in every film over the last 100 years. And then they know the fans don't want it, but they have all the woke marketing and all the social justice warrior stuff. And they just don't care what the fans and all these nonsense things that's all the movie reviewers can come up with when they don't see that it's these certain franchises, of which I guess most are in the bucket of being ruined intentionally. The point is they're being ruined intentionally. It's not because of incompetence and all this stuff that these movie reviewers are. That they only can pull explanations from the same toy box. They're not capable of looking outside the toy box. But the main question for commenters is, what's the difference about Dune? You know, somebody might say, and I don't know, but just to throw out an example, someone would say, well, Matt, David Lynch, you know, that's David Lynch's baby. And you know some of the potential creepy connections, you know, potential, although half of the truth community looks at David Lynch as some sort of hero. We'll talk about that some other time. You know, I don't think anybody that gets under the dragon's wing that far comes out and emerges a hero. Like, oh, the new Van Morrison album is a truther album. Oh, but then you find out he's knighted by the Queen. He's not capable of becoming a truther when you go that deep, in my opinion. You know, in all my opinion, if you go that deep under the dragon's wing, I don't think David Lynch is any different. If anything, it's revelation of the method, and he's bringing forth certain concepts and topics that, you know, they want to bring forth. We've talked about that before. But why was Dune spared? If you're 45 years old and you've never seen the original Dune, you didn't really like that hardcore sci-fi, or you're 25 and you most likely, if you're in your 20s, you haven't seen the original Dune, unless you're a big comic book and sci-fi fan, you're going to watch the new Dune. You're going to be like, okay, it's interesting. You're not going to like it very much. But what makes it good is that Dune was like an absolute cult classic, and it is so true to the original. You don't know the original, you won't like it. Well, Matt, what's Matt talking about? This ain't that great. It's true to the original, and it absolutely doesn't stomp in any way, wipe out the original. Certain things are enhanced big time in the new version of Dune. So I don't have the answer, but I just want to reiterate, we know that Star Wars and all of this stuff is made bad on purpose. 100% for anybody new here. I know for anybody new, that's hard to wrap your head around. For those that have been here many years, we've talked about this many, many times. The same old excuses. Well, Matt, don't you know they turned it over to Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson and Jar Jar Abrams, and they ruined it. They didn't seek creative help from anybody else at Disney. You know, oh yeah, the CEO of Disney and the chairman of the board, they're just powerless. Once you give power to Kathleen Kennedy, you can't take it back. It's so ridiculous. They were obviously destroyed on purpose, and we need to revisit that. That's, to me, one of the most interesting theme topics of all time. I'll revisit that soon. I just love the topic. But why was Dune spared? And Dune proves, that you Hollywood reviewers and movie reviewers, they know how to make a good movie. You know, they didn't lose that, and they know woke stuff pisses everybody off. It's all by design. Wait a second, guys. I'm being interrupted. There's something like appearing in my hallway. It's fuzzy, it's glowing, it's sort of materializing. It's the ghost of Governor John Connally of Texas. It's trying to speak to me. Hold on. What? Yes, I used the word Dallas several times in my presentation about Alec Baldwin, what happened, relating the hunt to Red October and the Dallas class submarine called the Dallas that was Los Angeles class. Yes, I did use. He's saying I'm not allowed to say the word the way I said. I must say, if I'm going to relate the sub that was chasing down the hunt for Red October, I must present it as the USS Dallas. Is that right, Mr. the Spectre Ghost of John Connally? You want me to say the USS Dallas? Dallas? How did you even become governor of Texas, not being able to speak, sir? Did you even get past the 5th grade, sir? Sir, Governor, Ghost of John Connally, specter that just materialized in my hallway, be gone, sir. Go back to the magic bullet hell from which you came. Guys, remember the ridiculous and way out list a few videos back where we'd say we or the old guard would accept these absolutely insane concepts as potentially being true. Remember I said, well, if just 5 or 10 of them are right, it proves we live in something far beyond the land of Oz. I was assuming most of what I present would be wrong, but they were all so out there that if just one was right, we live in the Bizarro show. Well, after I made the video, of course, I came across things, and we could do a whole nother list. I'm not going to do it now, but there were 20 major ones that I forgot. For example, I'll just do one now that needs to be on the next time we revisit those topics. Stuff that's so out there, if your neighbor stumbled upon the video, they would try to have you locked up, where people that have been investigating, quote, truth, at this point were like, yeah, that crazy stuff, you can never go too far, and that's generally how they do business. Or people saying, well, I could see that. So here's another one that I forgot, and we'll do another list like that soon. When Bill Clinton was being the deposition, the Monica Lewinsky deposition or whatever it was, when he said, well, he's trying to, this is the brilliance of these attorneys, how they can just camp onto the minutia and get out of anything. Bullcrap. He says, well, it depends on what the word is. And then Greg and I were like, he dropped an ISIS. He when you combine those, he dropped an ISIS. It depends what your definition of the word is. Greg and I were like, I don't know what that means or why they need to drop that, but he just dropped an ISIS. I mean, does anybody really think the president of the United States, somebody that at that time he was in trouble with the Monica Lewinsky scandal, but he was viewed by most dumb Americans as being completely brilliant. Do you really think he's going to – it depends on what the word is to challenge the definition of is, or of something absurd like the. There is almost no simpler words that exist that can be challenged. I mean, he's going to challenge what A means, just in a hat. Just what does that? What does A mean in the sentence in a hat? I mean, give me a break. Nobody would ever make that as their defense. Therefore, do I know he's dropping an ISIS? No. What does that mean? I don't know. I wasn't in the back room when when they break out the pigs in blankets with Jared and they talk about the Babylonian and Egyptian roots that they're proud of. I don't know. I don't know if they're even proud of that, but it seems to come up quite a bit. So what I do is I see that and I say, well, there's no way that nobody's going to challenge the word, or the definition of the word is. I mean, give me a break. Therefore, what do we, without looking, around too many corners, what's blatantly in your face? ISIS. It's pretty much that simple. Well, what exactly does that mean, Matt? If you're going to make this presentation that's what he dropped, tell us what it means. Unlike these know-it-all channels that know everything about the esoteric and know every bit of how they do business, I'll tell you, I don't know what it means. I can just identify, and it's fun to talk about. If he dropped an ISIS and that's what his intention was, then that's just one more thing that proves we lived far beyond the land of Oz. The people in Oz, they knew where we were. Like there was like a black road that led to us. They were afraid to go down that road. The people in Oz wouldn't go, oh God, don't go to that. What's next on the path? Earth. Don't go there. We're more than happy to be tormented by this wicked witch of the West, and don't ever go there. That's basically the situation we're in now. It makes Oz look completely normal. Guys, I have to take a break for our first sponsor. My producer's rapping on the window here saying I'm way overdue in presenting the first sponsor. And I'm sorry, I have to pause and ruin the mood because the first time I did this, which was Marco Rubio bubble parties of Central and South Florida, what happens below the bubbles stays below the bubbles. A couple people thought that these are real sponsors, and I had like a producer. There's no producer here. I'm sorry to ruin the mood. You're ruining the mood. I have to say it. There's no producer here. This is not a real sponsor. That might get me out of some sort of legal liability. So this is a new one. I mean, just unlike the others like Joe Biden, Deliverance, Inbred Banjos, this is a new sponsor. And it is Alec Baldwin's Party Poppers and Exploding Cigar Centers. It's Alec Baldwin's Party Poppers and Exploding Cigar Centers. Find a location near you. No party should be without Alec Baldwin's Party Poppers and Exploding Cigar Centers. Now offering other novelties for your next social event, including cap guns and water pistols. and available just today that purchase a novelty or a movie set prop online from Alec Baldwin Party Poppers and Exploding Cigar Centers, 1 out of 10 of you will get free tickets to the new Broadway play show extravaganza, How Does Billy Feel? Billy Baldwin. How Does Billy Feel? The new Broadway play, which is basically they're calling a combination between My Dinner with Andre and Cats. Billy Baldwin struggling with the depression of always operating in the shadow of his older brother. And although the show has not premiered yet on 42nd Street and Broadway, we believe there's going to be a segment about the fat Baldwin and how impotent and pathetic he feels, even in the shadow of Billy, playing pathetic roles like the Flintstones. Now, this is something you can't miss out on, folks. 1 out of 10 of you will be going to the Broadway show, How Does Billy Feel? And that leads us to a more serious segment. It's a screen exercise, but this is the most fascinating topic, pondering. It relates to How Does Billy Feel? This is another Bill, Billy G, not Billie Jean from Michael Jackson, but the person we call, you know and I know him as Melvin P. Gates. How does Billy feel? How does Bill feel in the role of Melvin P. Gates? The point here is getting a little bit more serious. What are these things? Let's ponder this one last time. And I'll bring in some advice I've gotten from somebody, we'll just call him Tony, who I've gone back and forth with email, and we've spoken over the phone. And we always believed in this community that those that pull the puppet strings, continuously screwing humanity. Of course, we've made chicken salad out of chicken S, and we're using that screwing of humanity to learn incredible, valuable spiritual lessons about ourselves. So thank you, sir. May I have another? Every time you take a big bite of the shit sandwich, I benefit 1,000-fold on the other end. Strike me down, Darth, and I become more powerful than you could ever imagine. We've been over that. So, but what are, we all had a notion that these things are not the same as you and me. You've heard me say that many times. And nobody has ever given explanation of who this certain level minion is, other than the way Tony presented it. So I've said it. I've talked about different types of incarnations in the past. It is fascinating, and I'll say it again. The first time he told me about this, it really resonated with me, because deep down we know the presentations of these creeps on TV: George Soros, Bezos, $1 billion, 1 billion NASA dollars to send up our hot water heater. They're not the same as us. And we struggle with this. Well, wait, do they have a soul? Do they have a spirit? Are they NPC? What is their connection to what we call the screen? Do they have the same ways to win that we do? A lot of questions. And again, nobody's been able to, now, do I know Tony's right about this? Of course I don't know. But nobody's been able to answer these questions where my inner tuning fork was resonating. This is probably pretty close to the truth. It's fascinating. So wake your inner knowing up in your inner tuning fork and see if any of this resonates with you. So Tony will come back and say, let's just call Melvin P. All these middle-level, high-level minions, they're not the same as you and me. And he would agree, what I presented about the big fish in the small pond scenario and everything here being opposite land and backward land. He's like, oh yeah, here they are the big fish in the small pond. They hold all the power. He would call them, and he got some information from a certain book he read that confirmed some of his revelations when he had out-of-body experiences with higher self, etc. He's saying he calls them sequential incarnations, where he would call real people connected to spirit a simultaneous incarnation, all related to higher self. We'll talk about that some other time, and if I get it wrong, Tony will beat me up. So let's just keep it to the conversation. What is Melvin P? What is that thing? Say, these are sequential incarnations, Matt. They are big. They're big fish here, but being a big fish here is nothing. Being a big fish here ain't nothing. So what if they're all powerful here in this little tiny place? If you back up far enough, it's a joke. It's a fish. It's a cod flopping around a Home Depot bucket. Now we're in the aspect of us inside is, we are in the body and the avatar, and there's will be limitations in that. We according to Tony, but he says, if there's one thing to remember, Matt, one thing from everything I've tried to give you, you agreed to come here. Okay. You agreed to come here. The limitations of the body, the avatar, these Melvin P's and Bezoses are different type of incarnation. They seem all powerful and all rich and all controlling here, but it's opposite land. You, people listening to this, Matt, are way, way, way more advanced spiritually as a simultaneous as a simultaneous incarnation. So again, it's backward land. We feel the powerlessness of being in the body and the avatar. We feel we're being oppressed and all the stuff that it's just it resonates. I guarantee resonates with everybody here. It's just where it matters spiritually. It's the opposite of that. And we're not just saying this to make us feel better. No, we're nothing here, but we're just going to say we're no. Your inner knowing. I appreciate what Tony shared with me, but your inner knowing confirms this, that these creeps running around with their little they're meant, the whole reality is meant to distract you from what you really are and what you're meant to do here. So there are different theories about these controlling minions sequentials. Theories that they do remember past lives or incarnations. They do have access to ancient knowledge, and they don't come in Tommy, the deaf, dumb, and blind kid. But if the one thing I've ever taken away from Tony said, if the one thing to remember this is you agreed to come here, the one thing I'll remember, if I forget everything else, is how he's stressed about those that are, much, much more advanced spiritually, like the people listening to this. Come in here, Tommy, the deaf, dumb, and blind kid. And again, the one thing I'll take away, I can just still hear him saying, he says, do you know how much balls it takes to do an incarnation where you're in the limitations of a body, of an avatar? You don't know who you are, where you came from. The entire reality is out to trick you, to deceive you, to fool you. You come in here completely Tommy, the deaf, dumb, and blind kid. You're not cheating like some of these minions that have access to information. He's saying they're playing it safe. They're playing it safe. We're taking the gigantic spiritual risk, and where risk comes, reward comes. They're playing it safe. If you had knowledge of past lives, or at least the information passed down, and of course you'd be rich, know how to control everything, know how to beat the stock market. Your past incarnation of yourself probably built the thing. You rigged up itself. You put a back door in. It's all rigged. They'll always be the little controllers over this place. Then they want your type of incarnation, or the simultaneous incarnations, to put stock in this place and covet it and give it energy, attention, and feed it. Where misery loves company. They don't want anybody finding out who they truly are, wanting anybody to communicate with an aspect of themselves that's not here, or communicating with higher selves, saying we're done with this. We played this game. We don't play it anymore. We're not putting any stock in it. We're not carrying any karma. That's me putting that in. Tony is absolutely in 100% against the notion of karma, saying if you were designing a reality system where generally they don't want you to convince your higher self that you've won, what would the reality system design? They would design something called karma, so you always feel you have more work to do. And you never, because if you completely put all the belief and energy into karma, this gets into the no consequences debate again. Saying if you were designing a reality system where real souls are in there, and you never want them to be able to work with their higher selves to convince their higher selves they can get out, and they don't need it anymore, they're done with it, then you would design it around karma and consequences, where you just, we just didn't quite do good enough, we have to do it again. Or so. Yeah, Tony's philosophy is a huge argument towards the no consequences people. I still believe the truth lies somewhere in the middle. I was more of a consequences person. I've now shifted toward the middle. And the reason for that being is similar to the karma argument, where I think Tony would say, Matt, if you were maybe not designing a reality system, but you come in and you hijacked it, or you're the controlling element here, or you position yourself to be the controlling element on the podium, you would want to constantly get every real spirit thinking here that if they didn't do things just the right way, that there's a big price to pay for that. You would design it that way, because who would eventually be big enough to believe that not only maybe when they woke up, now they're good. Even after they woke up, they're not still inside the body, inside the avatar. They have limitations. They're not going to do everything right going forward, and they're going to carry that load, and then they probably regret the way they lived their lives for the 30 or 20 or 30 or 40 years until they woke up. And Tony would say it's just about simply understanding who you truly are. And that the higher self, or the aspect of you that's not here, needs to see, needs to be convinced that this game doesn't need to be played any longer, anymore. And according to Tony, the higher self sends in lots of different incarnations into simultaneous multiple reality systems to learn lessons. Okay? Now, I'm no expert in this. I'm just trying to communicate this the best I can. And let's go back to the main purpose of this part of the presentation was, well, what is Melvin P? So he's way down on the spiritual totem pole, but they're not, you've heard me, if you've been here for years and years, saying, are they stuck here? Are they bound here? Are they doomed here? Are they doomed to the best they'll ever get in life is a sex act on the back of a speedboat? That's all they're. No, he would say no, they're not doomed here. They're just chicken. They're just he would say the highest spiritual levels listening to this, you started like Melvin P. You were an asshole. Maybe not in the same way, in the same Earth system, whatever, but you were that type of incarnation. That's playing it safe. That's, well, I want to have pleasure, but I don't want to really take the plunge. I don't want to take the risk. He'd say, you started that way. Don't be too hard on these a-holes. They're just not ready to give it up. And there's also like they're addicted to some of the pleasures that are here, and misery loves company, and then addicted to certain power, and they have the wrong traits. Said you got that you could. If you don't give your higher self what it needs, and none of the incarnations do, according to Tony, these aren't all my philosophies, a lot of it resonates with me. The higher self will just continue to put in things like you into these reality systems until it finally says that we've had enough of this. And the higher self needs, we're not completely beholden to it. It needs us to do the work here. It needs us to say, we're done with this. And he would say the Billies of the not Billy Baldwin, but the Melvin P's, that Bill, they're just playing it safe, and I don't know. I guess there's no time outside this snow globe reality system, but we have to put it in a way we can understand it. I don't know what Tony would say about this, but it sounds like, they're like millions and millions of years potentially behind us. So, I'm not saying that to make myself feel better. You're not resonating with that as you hear me talk about it to make yourself feel better. You just know it. You know it. Like, it isn't just, this isn't just screwed. Everything, we're totally screwed. It's just constant suffering. It just, no, the rewards of this place, they want you to live your life like you're just screwed your whole life, and you're just screwed by these powers that be. And no, they don't want you to take what you're here to take. And I'm not just saying it to make anybody feel better. Absolutely, every bit of this resonates with me. So these creeps are not the same. We've always known that. They're not the same as us. We've always known that. A first grade truth would be like, well, people just get on the wrong path, and, one thing leads to maybe they got in the wrong group or society, and, didn't you see the movie Skulls, Matt? No, once you start to really wake up, and, I don't have my third eye activated the way Levette talks about. I believe some information can come that way. I believe it's happening a bit. I believe we get the retrocausality language from spiritual self, the messages that come through art and music and media. So we've always sensed, once we started to get that level of insight, that these creeps are not the same. They're not the same. One of these things is not like the other. They're probably in the same avatar. And then remember, when we got closer to thinking this way, what would they always do? They'd say, oh, well, they're a hybrid avatar. It'd always push it back to the body, never the spiritual discussion. Oh, they might have a little bit different chromosome set, or they're a little bit different who the queen is. Always push it back to the body, where that conversation doesn't matter. What matters is these things spiritually aren't the same as you and me. And if if you truly realize this, then that is the basically winning. I mean, the highest level of then you just work on your higher self and say, we don't need to do this anymore. We'll get the heck out of here and go, not get trapped in some astral reality system upon death. That the fear has been planted on us our whole lives. Even Harrison Ford in Star Wars, you can't go out there and look for Luke. Your tauntaun will freeze by the first marker. Your tauntaun will freeze. You have to spill its guts to keep Luke warm. Then I'll see you in hell, he says. Then I'll see you in hell. Constant hell is according to Tony, is a construct that people were meant to believe that people will create upon themselves at death. Okay, some pretty hardcore stuff, but we'll get into that some other time. And of course, Tony will give me a big ass smackdown of what part of that presentation I just got wrong. He will beat me up, and I deserve to be beaten up. Oh, and then other channels that think they know everything, know-it-all channels, will take segments of what I just presented and then just make fun of it on their little channels. But really, in the end of the day, offer no clarity in the matter. Just make fun of what I presented. What I present comes from the place of, this resonates with me, and this is very interesting to explore. Never from, I know it all. This is what it, never. Sometimes I say, this is my opinion. This is the way it may be. We ponder these big things. Know-it-all channels generally don't know it all. The wise man usually doesn't say how wise he is. We should do a voting video sometime. Choose your favorite minion. Who's your favorite minion? For some reason, Elon Musk fascinates me. Just fascinates me. He would absolutely be my choice. Just the whole, who is he? Where did he come from? What were his connections? What does he know? You think he knows everything. He probably, we always run into this every time. He probably knows way less than what you would think. Does he think he's really running 5 global multinationals? Probably not. He's probably convinced he's more of a front man in that area. But in terms of how the whole reality system works, and he just, to me, is just a complete fraud, a front man. And sometimes you wonder why they would choose such an incompetent front man. But their presentations always have to have mistakes on purpose. Why would you choose a Robbie Bibby Bibby Bobby? Or Bibby? Why would you choose someone like that? It always has to, the presentation always has to be a bit unbelievable, the way their weird craft works, put it that way. So you put someone forth that, he goes on the Joe Rogan show and smokes a blunt. I mean, you put somebody forth like that really doesn't, to us, people like me, people like you, it doesn't seem like he could even run like a lemonade stand. Like if kids were like, we need to put lemonade on the corner. Would you just think of Musk organizing that? You think it would go well? But that he's running 5 multinationals at once, it's a joke. I mean, he's a clown. But there's people in my family that literally in love with him, that literally lined up. But you can't really drop. You can put the deposit down on the Tesla, but you can't. They won't be here for 8 more months. Oh, wow. They'll line up, lined up. 2 family members lined up to put deposits down, and then they'll sing the praises of Elon Musk like over Thanksgiving. When I'm just like chewing my tongue off, wishing I could speak. Producer's wrapping at the glass again. I don't have to give a full advertisement for these sponsors. I just have to mention the silver level sponsors for the Old Fashioned Radio Show. Of course, our oldest and fondest has always been the Marco Rubio bubble parties. Central and South Florida locations. What happens below the bubbles stays below the bubbles. The note here is there's a new Marco Rubio bubble parties locations opening up in Little Rock, Arkansas this week. Bill Clinton will be doing the ribbon cutting, and we're told right after the ribbon cutting, he'll be getting naked and going under the bubbles. If anybody's interested or in the Little Rock area, that's happening this week. Go to MarcoRubioBubbleParties.com or see Senator Marco Rubio's office in the U.S. Senate for more information. For more information, we of course a longtime sponsor, Michael O's. I can't be more specific than that, guys. Michael O's Tuck Guard underwear. Michael O's Tuck Guard underwear. And the new slogan for 2021 is, when a bulge just won't do. When a bulge just won't do. Michael O's Tuck Guard underwear. Visit the website for 10% off today. And of course, our last sponsor, silver level sponsor. We had our fight and our little spats, the sponsor went away. Now they're back. Joe Biden's inbred deliverance banjos, of which somebody has emailed me recently showing pictures of Joe Biden, not Joe Biden next to the deliverance kid with the squinty eyes in West Virginia, Appalachia. We've done that. Showing Joe Biden's face next to John McEnroe's face in the sun with the squinty eyes, saying this is really creepily similar. Is John McEnroe the proponent of "you cannot be serious"? I'm telling you, the way this is presented with the squinty eye, it's very similar. Could John McEnroe, you know, if you can picture both, you know what I'm talking about. Could he be the illegitimate or bastard son, or even purebred son of Joe Biden, or all one and the same character with the deliverance banjo kid? I mean, it's just incredible. But I don't want to get on the wrong side of a long-term silver level sponsor of the Old Fashioned Radio Show. Now President Joe Biden's inbred deliverance banjos, available now. Guys, I just want to close on what I alluded to earlier. Comment on this if you can. I need to do a whole video on this, but same observations I presented a few times about time itself, and now the same observations coming from other people, that there's two things going on. Nobody would say time is expanding, like I have all this time to get stuff done. Almost everybody's saying it's shrinking. I can't get anything done. And when you have a power outage or things like this and everything takes 10 times longer, nothing gets done. It's unnatural to me. I don't know what's happened to time. Would I actually, if I had to put my chip on, has something happened to time itself, but there's another way of looking at this? Or is it just Matt, it's just your perception. You're getting old, brother. You're getting old. That's what happens to the old. Everything seems fast. I'm factoring that in. I'm weighing that. I don't think that's it. It's not just me. I've heard too many people. Now, it seems like time is shrinking because we can't get anything done. But there's another way to look at it. Just a really big, strange thinking, but I'll just leave you with this. What if the way the whole reality works? Now, don't ask me how they did this or how they could pull this off. I don't know. And this is, again, so out there. I wouldn't put all my chips on this. But what if just the way we do things across the board, it's meant to be harder, but in an unnatural fashion? I'm not talking about how long a computer takes to boot up and the little things that society and the creeps can throw at us to make our lives miserable. Like, Matt, every time I get on, I try to call my vendor. I've got to be on for 20 minutes, all these prompts. Yeah, all of that is added as well. But there's like some unnatural elements that it's almost like a Mandela effect, things we wouldn't notice, and it's always been that way, but maybe hasn't always been that way. And let me just give a horrible, horrible example, just so and we'll talk about this in the future. I'm sorry it's not coming out right, guys. But like cleaning a fork, like I've had experiences like this recently where it's like, and it's a bad example. There's thousands of these other little trivial things, like putting a plug in, and I never get it right. You know, this is a better example. How many times are you going to put a plug in and it's the opposite way? Like I'd say it's the right way 5% of the time for me and the wrong way 90% of the time. Or like cleaning a fork, like, why is this taking so long? Why am I spending all this time on silverware and cleaning, after feeding the cats? It's almost like reality itself has added the little steps or makes things harder. And it's like a Mandela effect. We believe it's always been that way, when in fact, potentially it hasn't always been that way. Where these are all bad examples, but if I'm making my point, that's all that matters. We can deal with it again in the future. Maybe in the past, when you go to plug something in, it should be 50-50, right? Whether you get it, the fat end or not. And now it's like, to me, 90% I get it wrong. And, how did reality accomplish that? And then if that is a factor, how is it doing that in every little area? Now, if this is the case, then time isn't shrinking. It's just reality has seen to it that everything we do takes longer. And of course, there's things we can understand and there's metaphysical things we can't understand. The things we can understand is, Matt, they just always want distraction, always want you occupied. They never want you to find yourself. So yeah, why did, quote, the guy 40 years ago design a plug where one side, They didn't used to be this way. They didn't used to be this way. Why was it even designed? And I know some electrician could say, Matt, the advantages of having one side bigger. Of course, there's a legitimate, quote, legitimate reason somebody could tell me about relating to electricity, but I don't care about any of that. To me, remember, you just plug shit in the 70s. Now you go to plug it in the 80s and 90s, you go to plug it in, oh, it's the wrong way, flip it. And now it's every time it's the wrong way. So there's many levels. Matt, it's not always a metaphysical reality breakdown. The creeps just designed it where they didn't need to, knowing that cumulatively there'll be 400 billion hours wasted with people trying to plug stuff in. Maybe. But it's also, to me, it's also reality itself. And this would explain if nothing has happened to time, but things in reality are just, I don't know, like putting a cap on. I'll give you another example that I do believe. Putting a cap on my lawnmower. Just put a cap on 10 years ago. Now it's like I don't get it right. I have to take it off. You're starting to understand what I'm saying, I think. Starting to understand what Gus is saying here. It's not about pee. It's about monkey. You can't. I go to put the cap on. It's wrong. Well, Matt, they designed. No, they didn't. It's reality itself somehow. I have to take it off. Then I put it on again. And this cumulatively adds up. And, I can hear somebody screaming at rising up out of their bathtub. Well, little tiny things to make your life, constantly more detailed. So all that, so you don't ever find the true nature of your spiritual self. Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty much that simple. I'll give you another example. And I haven't even thought about this. These examples just coming to me. I have a Comcast cable, and they give you a landline. And to check voicemail, you just hit a number, and then, you just hit a few prompts and you get in 5 years ago. Now there's a whole extra step where they say, they tell you who the number was. Message 1 from number 610. I don't want to hear the number, and that just adds 20 some seconds. And they're not trying to add on minutes. It's not about minutes. In the old days, we thought that when you call somebody's cell phone, we all know what to do at this point. We've all known what to do for 25 years. If it just went right to a beep, then, we kind of know what to do to leave a message, or somebody could just leave a short message like, hey, Matt's not here, leave a message, like 3 seconds. But it's like, you get that same message still even today. Please leave a voicemail after the tone. For additional prompts, hit this or that. There's a whole message that the AI Verizon woman talks to you before you can record your message. There's no point for that, guys. Nobody thinks through this. There's no reason for that. When I call somebody's cell phone, it should literally, if the world were real, I'm going to add this to the world were real section. There should be a 2-second message. Hey, it's Matt, not here, beep. And then you just leave your message. Or the automated message that say, the person you're trying to reach isn't here. Recording coming in 1 second. That should be boom. But there's this whole speech that we just think that's normal. That's not normal. There's a reason for all this little shit to distract us. And we'll talk about more of that shit later. I hope this came out right. I can't re-record any of this. A few sections I had, but this I can't. I've got to get this darn thing compiled, loaded, and off to Pam's because I am, the situation I'm in here. The situation. What did was his name Christopher Walken, who was in Scanners, and he was in the movie with Denzel Washington, Man on Fire. I'm thinking of the role he played, the Treasury Secretary in The Wedding Crashers. And he says, I can't say certain things, and his son, they couldn't make a movie like this anymore. Many movies would not be made like this anymore. His son is of a certain persuasion. He likes to paint instead of playing football. And he says, it's okay. He says, polls and sampling, and he's always worried to just all these politicians, all they care about is their political career. That's all they can say. That's all they care about. Political sampling and polling shows that 8 out of 10 of the American voters would empathize with our situation. Our situation, meaning the kid is, he likes to paint, not play vote. They would empathize with our situation. He's like, what is our situation, Dad? Anyway, just laugh. If you've seen it, that's funny. If you haven't seen the movie, then that was pretty stupid. I'll be back as soon as I can, guys, considering my situation here with the power.